Hello guys, welcome back to Ravenrock FinTech channel. So today, in this episode, I'll be sharing some of the books I've been reading so far. So I've been reading a lot of books. So different traders from different portfolio managers. Some of them are trading options, some of them are trading like macro. They are trading futures. Some of them are trading like currency. They have great insights. So they may have been living in a different time horizon. Like for example, today we're going to look at like Soros. So obviously he's very old now. He's very old now. But he used to be a legend in the global macro market. And back then, there was a completely different universe. All right, we were talking about, like normal people don't really have any access or like cable access of all these complicated derivatives. You don't have YouTube videos. People like me sharing about like trading and investing, and most of the investing and trading knowledge, it comes from the pit. It comes from the small hedge fund and also the private firm. We're talking about very private partnership in Wall Street. So essentially, this is from Soros' age. Everything about finance and investing, very private, and it was supposed to be like you have to be someone's protege, and you have to get a mentor to really have clue to access of this financial market, because everything seemed to be very complicated. It's a bit like if you kind of time travel back to the old Europe, that you were born in the very sophisticated Italian family that happened to be a banking family, that your dad runs a forex bank or maybe a financial institution in Florenza, maybe in the Venice, and then you are his oldest son, and you were trained, with all these mandate, all this knowledge of all these, arcane, all this banking knowledge. So we're talking about a completely different era. Right now, investors and, like we have YouTube right now, and we have internet, and this is so much better right now. We have a lot more transparency. We have tons of different media exposing, fake Ponzi scheme and all these different things. What you need is, great knowledge. You need a very solid, basic of what you have to learn, because there's simply so much noise out there. So back to the topic today. So we'll be sharing his book, The Alchemy of Finance, by Soros. And then the book is forwarded by a very famous and perhaps one of the most legendary hedge fund managers, Paul Tudor Jones. As in the next episode, we'll be talking about some of his story, right? Maybe what happened to Paul Tudor Jones, and etc. In this book, I find this book a very, very useful book, but it's also very difficult to understand if you lack all the fundamental of trading global macro, and you probably don't even be able to really understand what he's been talking about if you lack of this knowledge. So I would preferably speaking, if you really want to read this book, The Alchemy of Finance, I would suggest you to read his other book, for example, like the New Market Paradigm, that kind of book, and to get a basic insight of what's going to include in this book. But I find it very useful. I started trading when I was 22 years old, and right now I'm been trading for 7 years. For now, I'm still learning. This book, I've been reading this for repeatedly for more than 10 times. Like every different time, I find completely new understanding of what he's trying to talk about. This is fascinating, right? But a lot of people find that if you kind of read, watch this video from Thai crew, maybe that kind of bullshitters, Thai crews and all these stuff. These people, they've been telling you, well, you can read 100 books in 10 days, and then, these kind of books, and then you'll be able to learn a lot, and then be to gain financial independence and be rich and etc. Personally, I find it difficult, I find it rather ridiculous. So the fact is, you only need couple books, that really good books, and all these books are very difficult to understand. That means with these couple books, you have to read and try to understand them repeatedly. Like you have to read these books for more than 3 times. So you start to have a basic understanding of what the author would like to express. So that's a completely different style of reading that I would recommend to my subscribers from this YouTube channel. So basically, you have different part in this book. Part 1 is about theory. He has created a theory, rather like a philosophy kind of thing, because he used to study from a mentor, a very famous philosophers from Audrey, and he used to run out from, escape from the Nazi, and then he ends up becoming a very famous professor in London School of Economics. So, and then since after that, George Soros is a youngster who also escaped from Hungary out because he was, fear that his freedom of speech and all these freedoms would be suppressed by the terrorists. So he, similar to his mentor, he escaped to UK, and he started to go take the undergraduate program in also the London School of Economics, becoming his student. So ever since then, George Soros always fancied himself as a philosopher, right? And then he tried to, repeatedly, tirelessly trying to convince that the public that he make a lot of money. That's why he's such a great philosopher. But unfortunately, the market doesn't really view him as a philosopher, but a very successful hedge fund manager. But who cares? He's really rich right now. So he concluded for a theory, introducing a theory called theory of reflexivity. So this theory, to be simplified, is a theory discussing the chain effect out of price, crowd behavior out of economic system. We always think that in a rather traditional economist view, that they view market as a perfect machine. Every price, asset price, always reflect. They are always rational. But the fact is, in a lot of occasions, the market doesn't really act, rational. The market is chaotic. It's unpredictable. It's chaotic in nature, and most of the time, the participants are not, their decisions are their decisions are not made out of, rationality, but the fact they are making the decisions out of greed, or maybe perhaps out of fear. So therefore, in this theory, he talks about how the asset price will drive people doing different behaviors, and that behaviors causes a chain of events, and that chains of events will further drive the social events, and that events would further bring the butterfly effect, and then create huge market momentum. So he viewed that relationship between behavior, events, and also the asset price as the theory of reflexivity. Okay. So he talks about in the first chapter, he talks about reflexivity in stock market and also in the currency market, and he also talks about the credit and regulatory cycle. So this is a rather intense chapter. He talks about, in his own experience and as a hedge fund manager, he observed how the regulators are regulating the financial market, and trying to put a certain boundary to limit those speculators. So it gives a lot of insightful knowledge in this chapter. So in the second part, he talks about the international debt problem. He talks about the lending activity. He talks about Reagan's imperial circle. And in the future, if we have more subscribers and more serious participants in our platform, I would be happy to share a bit of reading I've been doing about the Reagan time of era, because specifically Reagan's administration is rather special if you consider in a long horizon. So I think it's very important for any macro traders to put a little bit of a investigation on the Reagan imperial circle. So also in the second part, Joe Soros talked about the evolution of the banking system, how the bank system was getting involved, and he talks about a bit of a euro dollar, how the euro dollar been circulating out of the system. I know this whole thing, you hear me rumbling a lot of new terms such as euro dollar, such as different asset classes. So these are very, very difficult terms. In the future, I'll be making a series of videos explaining all these difficult terms, so in plain language, so you guys can really understand what I'm talking about. But it will take a bit of time, so I beg for your patience. So you can devote more time for more intensive kind of reading. So he talks about the correlation of America and etc. So in the appendix, part 3 section, Joe Soros was talking about the real-time experiments, how he's been able to managing his fund during these we were talking about start from 1985 to 1986. So he made several investing decisions, trading decisions, and then he trying to argue that his theory is somehow rather accurate because he's making money, obviously. So in the fourth part, in the fourth section, he talks about the evaluation of the experiment. He talks about during his phase of running the funds, managing the funds, he's able to put a certain calculation and evaluation, examining how the funds are operating. Okay, so the fifth section is about prescription, about some suggestions and advice for regulators, because Joe Soros is you can argue that he is very quite notorious in front of in the eyes of regulators, because Joe Soros, he was intervening many countries currency process. For example, Joe Soros used to short selling lots of Thai bahts, and and makes a lot of money from the Thai government, which nearly destroyed the Thailand's economic system. And then Joe Soros was able to continuously short selling the Hong Kong dollar. And when the Chinese prime minister at the time, his name is Zhu Rongji, and then he in trying to intervene to stop Joe Soros from short selling all these Hong Kong dollar currency, and at the same time trying to short selling the Hang Seng index. So Joe Soros made a lot of money because he understands regulators can make certain big market mistakes. So as a speculator, he takes advantage of that mistake and make a fortune out of it. Therefore, he always viewed himself as a speculator that always knows just a little bit more compared to regulators. Therefore, he's putting some of the prescriptions, just like a doctor, giving to all these elites that's ruling all this country, building all these financial system and monetary system, telling them what to do. Okay, so in these chapter, he talks about the exchange rates, he talks about international debt, he talks about oil, international currency. So he talks about the reform and also the crash of 1987. All right. So afterwards, he's talking about putting all these appendix and notes. So this is pretty much everything inside the book, The Alchemy of Finance. The reason why I strongly suggest this book is because, first of all, as one of the most legendary macro trader ever existed on this planet, his words are definitely a must listen, right? But a lot of people, like, they would rather go and search for YouTube video, like, how to make money quick, or maybe technical analysis. Easiest way to understand, technical analysis is instead of having in-depth reading of his book. I find it quite unfortunate. But I do understand the reason why most of the people cannot understand, like, the meaning of this book, because it's rather difficult. You need to have solid financial knowledge background. You need to have patience. So you need maybe several books. You need to keep Googling about all these, what these terms actually mean. You have to look to the footnotes. You have to look to the appendix to actually go back to the charts, go back to the numbers to see what exactly happened there. So in this book, he gave a lot of real trading example. He gave a lot of his, the process of how he's formulating all these trading idea and investing idea. So that makes these book, makes these details are making this book invaluable, right? So it's very, very rare to see a book that's, writing all these, how he's, formulating and timing all these trades, and how he's able to keep a portfolio and then keep all these events and all the regulators' mistakes under his radar, right? So in this episode, I introduced the book, The Alchemy of Finance. It may be a little bit difficult, but the reason why I started this YouTube channel is like, I'm hoping that because every time when I see the YouTube channel, it's all about like really easy and simple thing, right? You have a lot of people talking about the same thing over and over again, but it's so difficult to see really intensive stuff, right? So in this YouTube video, I'll be explaining a lot of this really kind of difficult knowledge. So hopefully in the future, in the long run, it will be, like this video will probably create some sort of value to your investing career, right? So thank you guys for watching this video. I appreciate it because it's difficult, but if you have the time and the money, they can buy his book. I'm not getting any money and compensation out of this, so please subscribe my channel and give a thumbs up, and then if you can do it, you can share it with your friends. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.